welcome to another episode of Sideline Banter, brought to you by Women of Fantasy Football. I am Sam Holt, joined of course by my co-host Tate, and of course we've got Josh Hudson on with us today because we did a mock draft earlier and we've got to talk about it.
Sounds we do.
Right. Yeah, hell yeah, we have a whole party. Unfortunately, we can't have a 12-person stream. Otherwise, I think we would do it because this was a hell of a lot of fun doing a little bit of a mock draft, and it's officially drafting season. So pop goes the weasel.
That was one of the most active chats in a mock draft that I have seen in a very long time. So shout out to everybody that was involved. That was awesome.
Yes, when you have the right friend groups to reach out to get everyone to jump into it, and then you've got all your worlds colliding, it was a very active chat. And I think that everyone will agree that fantasy football is the most fun when you're drafting with friends and you can have the banter back and forth and you can make fun of each other and even get some inside jokes in there. If you guys are wondering why one of my good friends that joined the draft drafted Josh Gordon with one of his last picks, that's an inside joke from our league. And it's just kind of fun when you see those things happen.
Yeah, we even got to talk about Jersey Mikes.
We did. There was a lot of Jersey Mike's talk. There was a lot of sandwich talk. There was a lot of everything in the chat. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said, we're going to be breaking down this PPR single QB mock draft for you in just a second here. If you have any questions, throw them in the chat. We'll be sure to get those answered for you. But let's start with very quickly a few little notes of news before we dive into everything else. Breece Hall has an injury update for us because, of course, it wouldn't be preseason if we didn't have some injuries to talk about each week. But he will be out officially for 2 to 3 weeks with a groin injury. And just adds to the laundry list that we're seeing in this preseason. I'm sure you guys are seeing it too. All the memes of, can we just be done with the preseason already because we're tired of people getting hurt?
I think my favorite off-season news has been the insane trolling of Jaden Daniels and the NIL number issue with LSU. Yeah. It's just comical. The amount of, nope, we're not doing number 5 on behalf of Jaden Daniels. It's just hilarious.
Yeah. I was watching an episode of the Fantasy Footballers, and I think there's a bit where they're talking about cutting off one of their toes as well because you can't have 5 toes. So like it's gone really far. Seeing a lot of that as well, but I mean,
yeah, we got to leave the 105 vacant, the 105 completely vacant in respect for Jaden Daniels.
That should be an auto pick. So if you're dealing with a league where you're trying to get the right number of people, go ahead and have an odd number because you can solidify that 5th one as the auto team, and that's just in honor of Jaden Daniels not wanting anyone to have his number 5.
Amazing. I love it.
I think that'd be great. I mean, I think for that reason, when we go into the draft, maybe we start at reviewing the 5th spot just to get it out of the way. Or do we say we ignore the 5th spot and pretend that nobody drafted there?
I mean, I think that would upset Matt Swing in this circumstance.
It is. And I wouldn't want to do that to Matt because he is a gem and he was also very fun in the chat.
Oddly enough, that team ended up with Jaden Daniels, though.
I wonder if he did that intentionally. Knowing him, he would.
The jokes just write themselves. I love it.
They literally do. All right, and one other piece of news besides Breece Hall's injury, of course, is that Keenan Allen signs a 1-year deal with the Colts. How do you guys feel? Josh, I'll go to you on this. When you see a signing like this and you know that someone like Alec Pierce has been dealing with injuries, they're kind of starting to stack up already for the Colts this offseason. Does this just give you pause as you approach looking at any Colts being added to your roster?
So when I sit down and I do my projections, the biggest thing that I try to look at are teams from last year that I think can realistically regress offensively, because I can sort of temper expectations when I'm going through and doing these projections instead of just being like, oh, this team scored 25 rushing touchdowns last year. Okay, copy, paste, boom. Like, that's just not going to happen for every single team. The Colts were one of those teams where I firmly felt they were going to regress as an offense. And it wasn't even necessarily because I felt like Daniel Jones just drastically overachieved last year. I don't trust Achilles injuries, and I do not trust Alec Pierce. I don't think he's a legitimate wide receiver 1. I think he is a, what were we talking about off camera, Tate? Cardio X. That's Alec Pierce. He has one route in his chamber and it's go. That's it. So I don't think that you can realistically build a passing offense around that type of player. Now, if you're planning to feature a guy like Tyler Warren, that much over the middle of the field, Alec Pierce's role makes sense. But now you've handcuffed your team because you're paying your wide receiver one $30 million a year. That's not how you build a team. And when you look at how this team is structured, there is no depth at running back behind Jonathan Taylor, who's coming off of a season where he touched the ball over 350 times. There is no depth at wide receiver behind Alec Pierce and Josh Downs. And you still have the ghost of Anthony Richardson at quarterback behind Daniel Jones. Like, this team is set up for massive regression, and all it will take is one injury. Well, they've got their one injury right now, and that's Alec Pierce. Like, Keenan Allen's 34 years old. He knows Shane Steichen. Sure, that's great. So there's at least some familiarity with that system going back to their days. I believe it was back in San Diego when him and Steichen were together. So, but again, you're talking about a 34-year-old who still runs very crisp routes, don't get me wrong, but he's working between the tens of the line of scrimmage. Like, that's not somebody that's going to world beat your offense. So I don't see it as a good thing by any means, but I've been out on the Colts offense all offseason. So
that's fair. Tate?
Well, I don't want to talk about like the vacated target fallacy too much, right? Because we know Michael Pittman's no longer on the offense. He's in Pittsburgh now. I don't think the signing of Keenan Allen hurts anybody other than Josh Downs, because the role, Joshua's maybe a little bit more pessimistic about his fantasy outlook for Alec Pierce if he's healthy in this offense because of all of the RPO and the deep shots that Daniel Jones took in droves last year. But when it comes to Keenan Allen and Josh Downs, they kind of work the same area of the football field. At least that's where I think Downs does his best work, even though he does have some over-the-top speed. But guys, Tyler Warren does not change my opinion whatsoever on Tyler Warren. I still think he's going to be the focal point of the passing attack here in 2026. Daniel, the training camp clips seem to confirm what we saw in the beginning of the year when Daniel Jones was healthy. You can maybe have some skepticism about Daniel Jones' efficiency and his ability to be able to create anything with his legs, which is something that's been a part of his fantasy profile throughout his NFL career. But I still think Tyler Warren is going to eat in this offense, specifically with Michael Pittman no longer around. Keenan Allen and Josh Downs, that's where it gets me a little bit less excited.
I think that's fair. I think it's interesting when they make signings like this, because obviously you see other signings of teams dealing with injuries, or at least preparing as such. The Giants also went ahead and they signed Najee Harris, and at the same time they cut Juju Smith-Schuster to trim their roster up to give themselves, I think, a little bit more depth at the running back position for the obvious injuries that are likely to come their way towards Cam Scatterbo, towards that backfield. They're just trying to prep and I think prepare for the storm of injuries that are going to be coming through, and this feels like a signing much to do with that, just to have padded depth. I am also a little bit nervous about the Colts going into this season, just curious in terms of how they're going to get that momentum back when you already start off the preseason with so many injuries and a massive signing followed up by an injury to your majorly signed player on a big budget. Not a good look to start the season. So I have a lot of qualms and questions there.
I'm with you. And I'm not as much worried about Cam Scatterbo with Najee Harris signing, but I do understand that signing a veteran is never something that makes you feel great about a player that you're high on.
Exactly. Well, before we, get too far down the rabbit hole in injuries, because I want to keep this positive, let's just jump straight into the mock draft, because there was a lot of fun to be had in this one. Let's see. Did I click the same button at the same time, Josh?
I didn't touch it. I can bring it up.
Boom! We did it. All right. Yay. All right. So we had a bunch of fun friends joining this draft. Tate, you took the 1 spot. My good friend Kendall Valenzuela took the 2. Laquan Jones went ahead and took the 3. Jagger May went at 4. Matt Swing, producer and amazing guy over at Fantasy Life, took 5. Kelly, our good friend in Phoenix, took 6. Vince went into the 7th. My friend Michael drafted at the 8th. He's in my longtime Dynasty League that I talk about all the time. Then we had Joseph, myself at 10, Jorge Martin, again from Fantasy Life, amazing guy, taking the 11th spot. And Josh, you went ahead and took the 12. First, Tate, I want to ask you how you felt drafting at the 1, because you said this season in particular, you haven't been necessarily a fan of drafting first in leagues.
Yeah, I would prefer to be at the end of the first round, because I feel as if you have to come away with 2 running backs within the first 3 rounds. Otherwise, running back 2 is going to be painful when you're looking at your draft and the results, because it gets thin at running back pretty quick. It's specifically with all these injuries we were just talking about. Breece Hall with a groin, Josh Jacobs with a groin, and potential legal stuff.
Technically, all of them have groins, but an injured one is, I think, the thing to point out.
Thank you, Sam. I stand corrected. So high ankle sprain for Jeremiah Love. Like, there's a lot of uncertainty now, even with some of the running backs that we were seeing consistently go within the first 2 to 3 rounds. So that's making that pool even a little bit thinner, which is why I feel like I like the tandem that I can create at the end of the first round a little bit, and like at the end of the first rather than picking all the way at the top. But it can work. I feel like it worked for me, but I guess we'll have a meeting of the minds and see how we all feel about each other's picks and which teams stand out.
Yeah. So on the opposite end, Josh, you're drafting at 12, and I think that you added yourself when there were still several spots to be taken. So why did you pick 12?
So in my work league, I'm drafting from the 12th spot, and
Okay, so
most
you were
of the
treating
drafts,
this like
yeah,
the prompt, the brief.
correct.
Yes, the brief, and the reason I picked just really quick, the reason I picked the format for this is because everyone's getting asked right now to join work leagues.
Yep.
And so this is your typical 1 QB, single flex, nothing fancy on the roster, but it is PPR. So it was supposed to be kind of a back to basics draft so that we all kind of, there wasn't too much, finagling on fancy strategy. There wasn't tight end premium. I wanted to go back to basics for us here.
And it works for me because this is, this is what I'm looking for from a mock draft. Like, if that's the spot that I'm going to be drafting from, I want to test my hand at it. How can it look? If, all right, these are the players that I'm super high on, I want to start here. How does this build look? Spoiler alert, I don't love this build. Not a fan of this team. There's a couple picks that I like, but outside of that, we talk about this a lot on No Pun Intended on Wednesday nights on the Club Fantasy YouTube channel. If you are not, just like Tate said, if you're not getting 2 running backs in those first 3 rounds, we go so far as to say 3 running backs in the first 4, it gets ugly really quickly. And if anybody has ever watched a stream that I've been on, they know how much I despise having to roster Rachaad White, and I had to take him in the 10th round because there was not anybody else.
Do you feel like we bullied you into it?
Well, because you kept drafting all the damn running backs, so kind of, yeah.
I didn't. I mean, you bring up the running back drought, and I think that's a good way we can kind of first dissect our teams, because myself at 10, I went for my running backs, and I'm pretty slim pickings on mine. I really hammered the wide receiver spot. Again, being that it's PPR, and I didn't end up with necessarily my top pass catching running backs that I would have wanted. I wanted to make sure I shored up points elsewhere. So for myself, I have a Marion Hampton, Jadarian Price, Tyrone Tracy, and to Tate's point, it gets thin really, really quickly once you jump into these other rounds. So I pivoted, and Vince laughing because you definitely took a bunch of the running backs. This is what happens when you draft with your friends and they know how you draft, and they pivoted. Although, Vince, we'll talk about your draft shortly because you have a very high risk, possibly high reward team. That being said, I do feel like my team is very thin at running back, and to compare them, I definitely obviously love Tate's stack of running backs much more than my own. And I mean, Josh, do you have to draft an Eagle in the first 2 rounds? Is that something about being an Eagles fan that you
No,
do?
it's not. I'm a lot higher on Saquon Barkley this year than I think most other people are. He's my RB3 going into this season.
Nice.
Again, it's not because I'm an Eagles fan. I just think that this system is built for his talents the same way that San Francisco was built for Christian McCaffrey's talents. Barkley is going to have we'll call it a resurrection this year.
A resurrection. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, in terms of resurrection, I want you guys to talk about Vince's team, because to go McCaffrey, Achane, and Josh Jacobs, 3 backs that have the weight of the world on their shoulders, and I'm very concerned about soft tissue and joint injuries for themselves as well, because all of them have dealt with different things. Also, we could be dealing with a potential suspension for Josh Jacobs. This is a very, it's risky, no risk it, no biscuit kind of a league, or kind of a draft, I should say, for him.
So if you were to take 3 running backs in a row, though, and that is something that it's enticing because of that running back dead zone that hits pretty damn quick, right? So he had McCaffrey, Achane, Jacobs. Yes, nobody likes feeling tightness in the word associated with Christian McCaffrey in the month of August. We all have PTSD from 2 seasons ago. But was the running back 1 last year at the 1-7. And then, of course, Achane, and then Jacobs. As your running back 3, it looks great. But Vince, you talk about high risk, high reward. Not only did he take 1 tight end coming off of a season-ending injury, he took 2. George Kittle and Tucker Kraft. I love them both. And the injury reports and recovery seems to be trending in the right direction. But boy, I love a good old gambling man. So I actually like how it turned out, even though there is a lot of risk and reward with even guys like Christian Watson and Alec Pierce, who Watson has a lengthy injury history, and Alec Pierce may not even be ready for week 1. So yeah, a true, risk it or biscuit type team.
I was going to say, I just realized that Vince from the 1-7 took 3 Packers with Jacobs in the 3rd, Kraft in the 5th, and then Watson in the 6th. I don't know if I'd want to be that invested in Green Bay, though I do think that they're probably going to be very much in contention to win the NFC North, especially when you factor in the Bears schedule getting more difficult coming off of, a last place schedule into a first place schedule this year. Obviously you expect Detroit to bounce back. They'll also be playing a last place schedule. But again, to me, I'm fine with Jacobs. I'm definitely fine with Jacobs if he's your RB3. That's how you mitigate so much risk with players like Jacobs, who, are dealing with camp injuries, but also a potential suspension. Again, potential, nothing's been confirmed. Achane to me is still a bona fide RB1. I've been very much on record saying that offense is going to go through him. Now, I don't expect them to run him, 40 to 45 times the way that Jeff Hasley has talked about, but that offense is going to be very run-centric. You don't go out and you don't get Malik Willis, and you have legitimately no real wide receiver 1 to not say, we're going to run the football 500 plus times. Like, they're going to play defense, they're going to run the football, and if their defense gives up a lot of points, so be it. This is a transition year for this team, and I don't think that's a big secret. McCaffrey is still, I'm very down on McCaffrey. I've said it before. There have been 4 running backs at age 29 or more that have logged over 400 regular season touches. 2 of them were out of the league in the next year. So that's Curtis Martin and Tiki Barber. They went from 400 touches to less and then retirement. That's it. The other one was Walter Payton. As great as Christian McCaffrey is, he's not Walter Payton. So I don't think, the best case scenario for Christian McCaffrey, in my opinion, is they transition him into a slot receiver and let Jordan James and Kalen Black be the focal point of the rushing attack. That is what they need to turn Christian McCaffrey into. But just that alone, I don't think makes him a top 3, top 4, top 5 running back in fantasy football, unless they're actually going to target him 150 times, because he's still only a 9-yard per reception kind of player. So I just don't see that kind of upside. But again, when you have the Achanes, you have the Jacobs, you're protecting yourself from that. This is the kind of build that you want, though, in where it's so bad at running back so early. You load up at running back quite early and just say, all right, I'm just going to build out the rest of my team. Higgins, Watson, Metcalf, those are all 3 guys that when push comes to shove, they know how to score touchdowns. They all have their deficiency, sure, but it's hard to find a bulletproof wide receiver 1 from the 4th round and below because you loaded up at running back so early. But I think all told, I like the strategy of this team. I think you can debate the players that he drafted, which is fine. But, you know, I'm with you on the 2 tight end thing. That doesn't make a ton of sense to me when there's only one flex spot. But again, like, both of them are coming off injury concerns. You rotate them in and out. You've got more than likely a top 5 tight end in any given week. So,
yeah. And one sneaky thing that Vince did, to give him a little bit of credit here too, he did back up his, riskier, older veteran running backs with their inexpensive handcuffs, with both Marshawn Lloyd and Kalen Black.
Yeah.
And then he did make a comment in the comment section, 6 IR spots, right? That may be what you're dealing with in week 1 with with a roster like this. So of course the risk is there, but he certainly seemed to have a strategy when it came to loading up at running back and then, trying to find value at receiver and tight end. And then also even Patrick Mahomes coming off of a torn ACL. Me, oh my.
But again, like, getting Patrick Mahomes in the 12th round.
I know, I get that.
Like,
too.
that's a steal and again, just further proves the point. This is why you wait at quarterback, because you can find value late. Like, Kyler Murray has legs. He goes in the 12th round. Patrick Mahomes has been a league MVP, 12th round. He was the quarterback 1 in fantasy football before he got hurt last year. I got Trevor Lawrence at the back end of the 13th round. He was the QB4 last year. So, like, for everybody that's reaching on quarterback in some of these earlier rounds, a savvy league is not going to be drafting backup quarterbacks in a 10-team, 12-team league draft. So it's okay to wait because there's plenty of value so late at the quarterback position.
Bo Nix didn't even get drafted. He was QB7.
Exactly.
So
I don't even remember. Did Jared Goff get drafted? Because I don't even see him on here.
He's not fun. It's not sexy.
He's not fun, but he's a top 10 quarterback.
I'm with you there. But yeah, no, I mean, the depth at quarterback is very apparent. I'll ask, was there any point in this draft before we kind of take it? How about we shift to this? Are there any other teams that really stood out to you? Because we did see a team also with Matt Swing go with 3 straight receivers. Mm-hmm. So looking at how that strategy was deployed and how the roster looks afterwards, do you have a preference between going, a 3 receiver build in a 1 flex league where you only have to start 2 wide receivers or 3 running backs like Vince?
I mean, look, for me personally, I think you can always find pop receivers on the waiver wire. So I much prefer to load up on the running back position. And when I say pop wide receivers, I'm referring to, I can find like multi-week starters at wide receiver that show up on the waiver wire. I don't feel like you can do that at running back unless there is flat out an injury. And with the wide receivers, all it takes is somebody that just steps into a role and they make it their own. Look at Parker Washington last year. To me, I don't look at the fact that Travis Hunter got hurt and that's why we started to see Parker Washington. It was, we needed somebody that would come in and play the slot, play this version of the Chris Godwin role in this offense. And Parker Washington came and owned it. And this is why he's being drafted now in the 6th, 7th round this year, right? So I just think that is so much more likely to find on waivers versus a big time running back that, again, you need that starter to go down and you just blow all your fab on it, when I might be able to just kind of look at, oh, wow, this guy's routes in a given week have started to creep up. Maybe this is a guy that I need to, pick up for cheap and just kind of sit him and just kind of see what happens. And then boom, now you've got yourself a wide receiver 2 the rest of the season. So I much prefer that early RB build versus the early wide receiver role. That said, I mean, I like Breece Hall this year. DeAndre Swift is about as steady Eddie as it gets at the running back position. I think if maybe Swing goes with like a Jadarian Price or hell, even Ramondre Stevenson there instead of Jaden Daniels, I think we're talking about a very different draft in a good way, in my opinion. Because I love Harold Fannin. I think he's going to be a target monster in that Browns offense for whatever that's worth. But now you feel like you have a more steady top 3 at both wide receiver and running back, where I think you just feel a lot more comfortable.
Well, you point out him taking Jadarian Price, but he couldn't have because I already took it from him going that direction in the draft.
Oh, sorry, we're working backwards. Okay. Hell, even Tony Pollard or Jonathan Brooks.
Sam wanted to go ahead and throw in that little flex. On
Oh, that's okay.
So, I don't blame you.
I'm looking the other way. But
Yes.
regardless, like, again, I mean, Tony Pollard, yeah, he hasn't been great. He's just DeAndre Swift light. Your upside in your running back room is still Breece Hall and his not so great groin right now. But still, I mean, you're throwing it all out there with Puka and AJ Brown. Like, those are going to be the 2 guys. And then, of course, Rashee Rice in your flex that are going to carry your team. So, you know, build out. I would much rather get a steady build from my running back room. And then, because I can get upside at quarterback later. I don't think that there's that much difference between the upside that Jaden Daniels gives you versus, hell, Joe Burrow went 2 rounds later. Jalen Hurts went a round later. Justin Herbert went 4 rounds later. You know what I mean?
Thing. Talking about quarterbacks too, and Daniels going there. Again, I wanted to structure this a lot like a work league, but given that the majority of everyone drafting in this are analysts in the space, everyone knew to wait at quarterback. I still feel like your average office league, you're going to have people that are going to be
100%.
pulling quarterback early. So I feel like that is a grain of salt if you're drafting with other like-minded people. Hopefully your friends do the same thing and they wait at the position, because I loved the teams that were able to build with late QB picks. Like Joseph's team, for example, with Herbert as late as he took him. What round is that in? 10? That's fantastic. I mean, he's got JSN, he's got Walker right off the top, Pickens and Flowers, both, you know, top wide receivers. And then I love the combo of Tootin, Stevenson, and Brooks. You just mentioned Brooks a minute ago. I mean, I think he's someone that I think a lot of people are targeting in those middle rounds at running back, where you think you want to, you know, miss the drop off again. That happens. There's like another little island bit of decent running backs there in the middle. But I really liked how he stacked up everything else, except I did just see that Quinton Johnston just got hurt in play today at practice, so hopefully he's okay. But besides that, I really loved his build as well. And even waiting on tight end to the very last, I think that's fine in a standard league like this.
It's interesting to see Joseph, the OG, going with the inverse build of the strategy that I like to deploy, like the 3 out of 4 or 2 out of 3 at bare minimum for running backs through that period of time. But you do get, you know, Tootin Stevenson and then Jonathan Brooks. And I've been really interested to see where Brooks is going to fall. I think that is the perfect landing spot for where his talent level plus Chuba's injury, plus he's looked healthy so far this training camp. Like, that's where I would love to be able to get him without feeling like I'm over investing in him having to contribute to my fantasy roster from the jump of the season. And I'm sorry, Joshua. I know you wanted him.
It happens. This is why we mock. So now I know, all right, I got to go get this person a round early. So
It's always good to know when to get your guy.
exactly.
Right. I had to deal with some technical stuff, so thanks, guys. But what team have we not gotten to yet? Did you guys get to jump in on yours?
No, we talked about Vince's team. We hit on a little bit of Matt, like the 3 wide receiver versus the 3 running back build.
Let's talk about our good friend Kelly, who went with the aesthetic top 4 to go ahead and check off each box for those positions to begin with. First of all, it's a very Kelly-coded team right off the top to go with a top wide receiver in the first round. If it had been tight end premium, that's exactly where she would have taken Trey McBride. We all know that. But she went and got him in the second, and then her Lamar Jackson in the third, and then Scattaboo there in the fourth. This is really a great team to discuss too, again, for work leagues where you have people that are going to be drafting very much like a checklist. Like, this is a strategy in itself, and it's not necessarily a bad strategy either, because this is a lot of making sure you get single tops right off the top for every position in a league. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of work leagues that people draft in that are going to be building structurally kind of like that, just to kind of check boxes as they go.
Yeah, I also think it highlights just where you're going to look at your roster once you're done. And particularly if you go quarterback and tight end, both of those onesie positions in the early rounds to get the elite guys. Yeah. I mean, Lamar Jackson could lead all of fantasy football in points scored this year. Like,
Absolutely.
that's certainly plausible. Trey McBride, in like you're at the tight end position, he can give you a huge positional advantage. We saw that last year. It's just where you start to look at the depth of like your running back 2 that you're going to have to start every week, or your wide receiver 2 that you're going to have to start every week. It's always good to kind of deploy this type of strategy just to see what it would look like at the other positions if you go elite quarterback and elite tight end early in the draft.
Yeah. Of course, Kelly also is the one that went 3 tight ends. Despite
I did see that too.
I emphasize this is not tight end premium. I love when she can't help herself. It's amazing.
Yeah, when you've got a shtick, you just got to lean into it, you know. Kelly, we love you.
So much.
But yeah, no, me personally, when it comes to like the onesie positions, like your quarterback, your tight end, I prefer that if I'm going to take one of them early, I'm going to wait and take the other one. Every single time I end up getting both of them, like in the early rounds, like in this case, like, you know, within the first 3, I do not like my team. It's not deep enough for me. I don't feel like I have much depth, and it just makes me feel more vulnerable. And I feel like then I end up blowing my fab way too early just for that level of instant gratification from, you know, somebody that popped in 1 week because of an injury where the guy is going to just be back right next week. And you're just like, well, shit. Okay. That sucked. But again, I've had some mocks where I've done this and I'm like, you know what, this team isn't half bad. Sometimes it just really kind of depends on who else you're drafting with and, you know, how much you believe in your ability to find those, you know, mid-round, late-round sleepers that other people maybe aren't paying attention to or what have you.
I think that's fair, but I'm kind of looking at her strategy and like, okay, if I did want to deploy this myself, how would I pivot, seeing how this translated again? She's drafting from the middle. If I wanted to deploy this, I would maybe just rearrange how I'm structuring this. So maybe what I would have done is maybe gone running back first and either taken, you know, a Christian McCaffrey or a James Cook, or even a Jonathan Taylor, just so I could shore up that depth at running back and have that high floor for the position. And then maybe still taken Trey McBride in the second, then gone wide receiver there in the third instead of Lamar Jackson, because you could have waited a little bit longer and still ended up with him. And then maybe you grab someone like a Malik Neighbors, who we now are seeing in practice, and he's actually performing really, really well. There's, I think, other players that you could still argue to make this strategy work, but pivot it in a few different places.
It's all fair points. All fair points when it comes to trying to make this build work. It's just, I think you have to, there's a lot of things that are more out of your control when it comes to the value in the players and hoping that certain guys fall. It can work. I just feel like there's a little bit less room for error.
Yeah.
At those other positions where you need a little bit more depth.
All right. Well, then let's talk about my good friend Kendall Valenzuela's draft, because I obviously am a huge fan of hers and of her draft and her drafting style. She went double running back right there at the beginning and then shorted up with 4 wide receivers right after. So she went Bijan Robinson, Derrick Henry, Nico Collins, Luther Burden, Devontae Adams, and Carnell Tate. And then her quarterback is Jalen Hurts. That one I'm sure is for you, Josh. And then Corum and Mason, Matthew Golden. Travis Kelce, so she went late on tight end. Again, because this isn't tight end premium, I think this is actually really great value for Kelce. McMillan, and then, of course, finished out with kicker defense at the end, because that's how you draft those positions in this type of league, at the very end. Or if you can even get them, start the league without having a kicker defense, I feel like Kendall would have done that too. But how do you guys feel about hers? I love the stack right there, with obviously getting the upside in targets that you get from Bijan Robinson, and then the upside obviously from Henry in terms of being just a bell cow.
That's it.
I'll jump in because I was the poor bastard that decided to click the spot next to her name. She's very
As soon as you
good.
did that, I was like, that's a
She's
mistake.
very good. She's very good. And
She knows what she's doing.
no, she's great. So, okay, she takes Derrick Henry. I think that's a no-brainer at the end of the second round, but that was still a snipe. That's number one. Then I actually was going to stay away from Luther Burden just because of the groin injury. So that one didn't hurt as much, but she ruined me staying on brand with Carnell Tate right before me. Knife twist. And then just to, rub some salt in the wound at the very end, both Matthew Golden and prevented me from getting a Tampa Bay Buccaneer that I really like in Jalen McMillan at the end of the draft. So 4 times of like the 7 opportunities that she had to snake me, she executed that plan perfectly.
4 times snipe. I love that.
Yeah, but let's be honest. I mean, she got the top 2 running backs that she wanted, right? Like, you feel great with Derrick Henry as your running back too. Bijan obviously is a guy that can finish as the number 1 overall player in all fantasy football this year. And then 4 receivers that I really, really like. I mean, and she can only start 3 of them, but she's got depth at that position. And then some high upside RB2s, particularly one in offense that we expect to be quite productive with the Los Angeles Rams. So, and Kelsey is, despite a down year, still a top 5 tight end in PPR formats. Yeah, that was very well done, to say the very least, by Kendall.
I was going to say, the amount of people that are still fading Travis Kelce after, what do you have, 80 receptions, 800 receiving yards, and like 4 or 5 touchdowns last year. He was a top 5 tight end last year, and they said, oh, he just doesn't have it anymore. He's still good. He's not tight end 1,200 yards good anymore, but he's still getting it done. He still has a 3-time Super Bowl champion as his starting quarterback. Like, this offense still is going to run through him because Kansas City doesn't know what they're getting out of Rashee Rice with the knee injury and all the other off-field nonsense that he can't seem to figure out how to get away from. But like, Xavier Worthy hasn't stepped up at all. So like, this offense is still Travis Kelce, and hopefully they get what they paid for in Kenneth Walker. Yeah. That is a dumb value in the 11th round. Like, Kendall, well freaking done. Like, I love the start. I don't understand the fading of Derrick Henry in PPR leagues. He's still a top 8 running back for me. He scores touchdowns, and that makes up the difference when you're not catching 50, 60 passes from the running back position. So I think there's definitely more risk at the wide receiver position. I'm a little bit more down on Nico than most. Burden obviously is a huge question mark. Devontae Adams is still their tight end 1 in LA, and I love Carnell Tate this season. So if anything, she's definitely got trade value there at wide receiver, where maybe she can add another depth piece at running back.
I think that's a really fair point too, in terms of trade value on that depth, again, because this is just a single flex position, but you're leaning into the PPR upside here. Looking at the stats for someone like Nico Collins, for example, who I know is kind of dropping for several people in drafts as a wide receiver 1, just because there's a lot of questions about the Texans offense as a whole going into this season. He has not had double-digit touchdowns in the last 3 seasons, so it's a bit of a question mark if he's going to get them again, just given the structure of the defense being so stout there for the Texans. The upside that you then get with Burden, Adams, and Tate just skyrockets that wide receiver room right there for her. So I really love that grouping in particular, though I'm not targeting Collins. I think it's buoyed by the fact that the rest of her receivers, there's just so much upside there.
Yeah, I like that wide receiver room a lot better in a best ball league because it'll just factor in who's going to pop in a given week. Figuring out playing the matchups might be a bit more of a headache in this front because you can only start up to 3 in a given week.
Yeah. I want to jump to Jagger May's draft too, because if we're talking about wide receiver rooms we like, I just love how he stacks his wide receivers as well. Went heavy on running back to begin with. So we started with Chase Brown, went Brock Bowers. He went with Love there in the third. And then he went Waddle, one of our favorites, Tate, in the fourth round. Travion Henderson in the fifth. And then he went Parker Washington, Williams, Diggs, Downs. Boom, 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 boom. That's such a solid stack of wide receiver twos with so much potential upside. Diggs just signing with Washington as well. We don't really know what that offense is now going to look like with him, but it definitely helps him.
Again, I'm a huge advocate of making sure you come away with 2 running backs in the first 3 rounds. And regardless of which running back Jagger feels the best about, and Chase Brown being the 4th pick overall, hey, I believe in the Bengals offense, and there's no one there to steal any sort of work away from him. Jeremiah Love, dynamic talent, should be pretty damn good when he gets on the football field. And I love Travion Henderson as my running back 3 because I love the upside. And you're not depending on him on a weekly basis because you can kind of choose whether or not you want to flex him depending on how the touches shake out between him and Stevenson early in the season. I love Parker Washington. I'm a Washington guy for that Jacksonville offense, which, I had to settle on Brian Thomas, who I still like, but not just a little bit less than Parker Washington.
Was that another snipe for you, Tate?
Yeah. I took some body blows here. We all did. I had to endure a little bit. Poor me. I had to poor number 1 pick overall against Jahmyr Gibbs on his team. Had to, suffer some picks that he didn't like in front of him. But, no, I like but Bowers. This is where going tight end early, this type of build can work with Bowers going tight end early.
Mm-hmm. It definitely can. Your favorites on his team, Josh?
Well, and again, this kind of goes to if you're going to take one of those onesie positions early, you wait, and he goes Kyler here in the 12th round. Much like Kendall, there's a lot of interchangeable parts at wide receiver where you definitely will end up getting burned in some weeks, making the wrong start sit decision. But going those 3 running backs in particular in those first 5 rounds, that's the way that I want to build a team. And I love those 3 that he got. Like for me, Jeremiah Love is the optimal RB2 because going 3rd overall in a draft, you expect him to one day be the Bijan or the Gibbs where they're, he's going 101, 102 in a draft. It's just not this year. The Cardinals team, sorry, Kelly, it's just not there yet. And losing rookie Chase Besantis, not great for their potential on that offensive line at all. That's a huge blow. So I think getting him there as a 2, where if he has the type of season that Ashton Genty had last year, you're not mad about it. Because really, Genty didn't have a bad season last year. It's just everybody expected him to be so much better than that. And that's where the letdown came in because he didn't pay off at ADP, right? You get Jeremiah Love in the 3rd round. That's how he pays off at ADP. Same thing with Travion Henderson there in the 5th round. I'm starting to come around on the fact that Parker Washington is probably going to lead the Jaguars in targets. You love the upside of Jameson Williams. Again, he's not going to be a target hog the way that Monroe St. Brown is. But again, when you're building your team around a Bowers at tight end and 3-star running backs, you need as much upside at the wide receiver position. You want those pop weeks, and then you just got to guess right. And that's how you build a team, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. What team have we not talked about that you guys find is another one that you're just absolutely in love with?
I wanted y'all to really shred me because did I screw up the number 1 overall pick? I never get to pick here. I know I talked about it a little bit, but I didn't I didn't get you guys' analysis. So I want an honest take on it, even if it hurts my feelings.
Oh,
go ahead, Sam.
Do you want it to hurt your feelings?
Go ahead. Ruin my Tuesday.
That felt like foreshadowing, Sam.
Ruin my Tuesday, Sam.
No. Okay. So I'll start off with the things that I like. Should I do like a compliment sandwich?
Sure.
Okay. Obviously, I love Gibbs as the number one overall. Personally, I'm super biased and I absolutely love Bijan Robinson, but I can't argue too many reasons against Gibbs this season. I think he's a perfect 101. Love Olave there as well. Sucks about the Jordan Tyson injury that we just heard about. I believe he's going to be out for some amount of time. That's going to hurt some fantasy drafts that have already happened. But then I love the Williams and ETN combo there as well. So interesting that you're leaning into the Saints, which I believe is a division rival for you, Tate. So
It is.
we're leaning places where we're just, we're hoping for upside in other areas. It's fine. I get it. I do the same thing. I guess I'm most curious about the Marvin Harrison pick, just because I feel like we talked a little bit about it. I have a lot of worries about what the Cardinals are going to look like. There's a lot of tape coming out of training camp that looks high school-esque in terms of consistency, fluidity, communication. There's just a lot of questions that I have on how well this offense is actually going to function on a field come week one. So I'm a little bit curious about that one. The Burrow pick I think is fine. I was watching him kind of drop a little bit as well. So I guess my question would be, are you in this type of format, are you not so into stacking necessarily because you haven't walked away with that, as opposed to I intentionally wanted to walk away with a stack in this draft for this format in mind. So just curious where your thoughts were there. I already know how you feel about Krosky Merritt. I'm stribbling, and I was jealous of your Malik Washington pick for Miami, because if you can get a wide receiver one in the 12th round, despite the fact that, again, that's an offense that might not do anything.
We don't expect a lot of passing production. That's
we don't
very
expect
true.
a lot of anything out of them. But hey, you got their number one wide receiver, so that's cool too. I mean, I think the Harrison one is the only thing where I'm like,
I understand the hesitation with Marvin Harrison. So he hasn't put it all together yet.
Yeah, he hasn't.
He hasn't. And Trey McBride was a target hog last year. Michael Wilson had a breakout year, but that was more when Marvin Harrison was not on the football field. So, and the training camp clips, to be fair, not some of those drops a little ugly. Some of them poor. Some of them
were poor throws.
Some of them were poor throws too. That was exactly what I was getting to.
How is he supposed to catch the ball if the throw is bad?
That's what I'm saying. Like everything that Michael Wilson is catching is like right in his breadbasket. And it's like, okay, can you throw an accurate ball to Marvin Harrison Jr.? Might give him a better chance to catch it. I'm just saying.
So Sam, So what I'm trying to get at though is Marvin Harrison Jr. is still a guy that has this high draft capital. He has been a fantasy disappointment up to this point in his career. I totally acknowledge that. I do think, though, that he still has all of the gifts and all the physical tools, the route running nuance, even some of the release packages, things that I saw in college. I still think he's flashed that in the pros, just lacked the consistency. And I just think that he still has enough upside appeal in the 7th round as my wide receiver 3 when I'm planning on starting 3 running backs, that if he pops, cool. I still think that he has a capable ceiling that's somewhere in there. It's just, it hasn't been there yet, so it's easy to scrutinize that pick. And by the way, why did Dak Prescott, Sam, go before Joe Burrow? Because you took him.
I wanted the stack.
That makes sense. With CD.
I wanted the stack. I wanted the stack with CD. We've already seen Joe Burrow struggle in the preseason and already get sacked. He's wearing hats that say "I work here." So I just feel like I have a lot of questions of his confidence in his offensive line to start the season off. So I'm going to go where the confidence is, and I feel like there's a little bit more for the Cowboys on offense right now than under center for the Bengals. And that's a very picky take. So, I mean, I get it. It's just, for me, I really was targeting a specific stack. And
I get that. That makes sense.
Because my friend Michael took Caleb Williams and I was actually hoping to get the Loveland Williams stack, I was like, fuck. So that's where I went.
I mean, at the end of the day, when you look at their numbers, they're the same quarterback.
They're very similar.
Like when Dak is good, it's always the season that Joe Burrow's down. When Burrow is good, it's the season that Dak Prescott's down. I'm literally, you can look at the numbers, but they're like their highs are literally the same. But we don't talk about Dak the same way that we talk about Burrow because Burrow was a number 1 overall pick. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah. And he has no qualms about people using his number.
From LSU. That's correct, Sam. Yeah. So some quick shout outs to other teams that I actually kind of like though. I thought our boy MJ had a pretty MJ 62 with the Cowboys logo.
Yeah.
I liked his draft a lot. I mean, you basically got 2 guys at wide receiver that are 2 wide receiver ones, assuming Neighbors is healthy. Montgomery and Judkins, they're both high volume work. Exactly. High volume workhorse backs. And then you get the stack with Caleb Williams and Odunze. Like, Kincaid, that doesn't excite me as much, but outside of tight end, pretty good.
Yeah, Kincaid's one of my breakout tight ends this year. I think he's going to absolutely smash if he stays healthy.
Really? All right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can't gas him up too much because, again, he's in my long-standing dynasty league, and our draft is this coming Saturday.
Got to keep that ego in check, right, Sam?
Got to keep the ego in check. But I did also like his 2 wide receiver ones that you pointed out, London and Neighbors. Loved those, and I do like the combo running backs that he got. I was, again, annoyed that he took Caleb Williams because I was looking for him. And I will just point out, he did draft Josh Gordon, but this was also an intentional joke. We have an inside joke about Josh Gordon in our dynasty league. Our commissioner actually had him for a very long time on his team, despite all of the off the field things. He was like, this is his year. The number of times we heard this is his year on Josh Gordon were pretty funny. So I'm glad that he could sneak a little joke in there for us.
I was going to say, actually, my favorite team, though, is George Martin. 2 high volume lead ball carriers with very little competition behind them. A wide receiver 1 in Devontae Smith, a wide receiver 1 in Emeka Ibuka, and DJ Moore as well. And then, only Drake May and Kyle Pitts. That Pitts in that Kevin Stefanski scheme, I like. Drake May gets AJ Brown. That's a pretty damn good looking starting lineup.
Yeah. Jorge always crushes a good mock draft. I just actually joined another league that he has an opening in, and it was one of those ones where if he's invited me, I'm like, I got to jump in. And then I immediately regret it. I'm like, this is going to be a really hard league. So he absolutely crushes every draft that he does that I've been in with him. So it was great getting him on here too. And another amazing running back stack too with Taylor and Genty. Just talk about volume kings in their teams respectively.
Running back build at the end of the first round. I love it.
Yeah, no, it's really, really good. Josh, let's talk about yours to wrap this up.
Yeah, I kind of said this throughout the episode. I'm kind of kicking myself for not going running back at the 112.
Yeah.
Because it got really ugly really quickly. I've been on record saying that Barkley for me is the top 3 running back. Of the next group of running backs that went, I would have gone Achane at the 2-1 with Barkley at the 112, but Jefferson's my wide receiver 3, so it was really difficult to see him still on the board and not hit draft. Like it just really kicked me. But yeah, but like not being able to get my RB2 until the 5th round and my 2 and 3 being Jalen Warren and RJ Harvey, that's a lot of pressure on my wide receiver room, especially when 2 of those guys are in very terrible offenses. My saving grace was Sam Laporta. I'm a massive Sam Laporta fan this season. Drew Petzing knows how to target the tight end. Jahmyr Gibbs doesn't get 90 some odd targets last year with a healthy Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta being healthy this year, that's why I have Bijan over Gibbs as my 101 at running back this year. It's specifically for that reason. I don't see Gibbs getting that type of pass volume And I don't see him making the jump in rush attempts the way that a lot of people seem to think that he's going to hit those like Bijan, like 290, 300 plus rush attempt numbers. Touchdowns are still there, 100%. I don't doubt that one bit. Without Tyler Algier being there and in a more running back friendly scheme in Atlanta now, I think you see touchdown numbers for Bijan go up as well. So again, it's picking straws at that point, but I digress.
I have a question then
Sure.
on terms of like, because you were banging the drum even in the chat saying like, I wish I'd gotten a running back sooner. Because you have Justin Jefferson where you do, I love taking him at the 112. I think that's a great get. And I love Barkley. What could you have done then at the third round to pivot it? Because when I'm looking at the backs available, had it come to you and you didn't go McMillan there, you would have had the choices of Montgomery, Scadaboo, Hall, Irving, Achan.
The only one of those that I would have considered would have been Hall or Henderson, which, according to this draft, Henderson definitely would have been a reach, but I'm very comfortable with that. Hall already dealing with a groin injury definitely makes me a little cautious, but sure. I have McMillan as a top 12 wide receiver this year.
No,
so like
fine.
I was still gonna
you
go
would have adjusted to try and get yourself another running back sooner. Would you have kept McMillan or would you have pivoted?
I probably would have pivoted off of Wilson. That's probably where I would have pivoted. Yeah.
Got it. So then who do you wish you had taken in that spot? Kind of
based on my rankings, I probably would have taken Hall. So then I'd have the 2-2 build. That I think would make me feel a little bit better having Jaylen Warren. Because again, I like him, and I think he's going to see a lot more pass volume than he saw last year. That team is going to run the football a ton. You don't ask a 42-year-old quarterback to throw the football 600 times. It's just not going to happen. So
he's not going to.
Yeah, and the thing about Rico Dowdle, I do think he'll be more of the first, second down runner. But I think what Jaylen Warren proved last year is that even with 200 plus carries, the efficiency didn't drop at all. So I think what you have there in Pittsburgh, and Sam, you probably pay a lot more attention to the beat reporters, and our good friend Brooke Pryor covers that team for ESPN. I think these backs are going to be very interchangeable, and it's not going to be like Dowdle only gets first, second down work. Jaylen Warren only gets, the change of pace, third down receiving work. Like Rico Dowdle's had 50 targets each of the past 2 seasons. Like he's a very capable pass catcher. And again, Jaylen Warren showed last year that he can tote the rock for 200 plus times. Like, I think that putting him in that Smith system last year actually showcased his ability as a runner more than how he was being typecasted previously.
No, I agree. I am curious to see how Mike McCarthy splits up their work, because I do feel like having both of them, they will end up being treated like a 1A, 1B situation in terms of how they're used. Because again, Dowdle's proved it. He can carry a team, and Warren's proved a lot as well, being such a downhill runner. He can handle a lot of volume. I'm really curious how they do that. I think that I'm a little bit more optimistic on their output fantasy wise as opposed to the wide receiver positions, just because again, like you pointed out, I don't know how many throws and how many targets they're going to be seeing from Aaron Rodgers, just because frankly he's already said it, this is his last season. He didn't look great getting hit last year. I'm nervous to watch him get hit again this year, but at least we don't have Myles Garrett for him to face twice this season. So
silver linings.
There's a silver lining to everything, but yeah, I think for myself, I'm trying to be optimistic about my Steelers. There's a reason I didn't draft any of them. The only Steelers thing that you see on my team is my icon, because I only want to be hurt by them once a week, not multiple times by being hurt in my leagues as well. But I do like your draft as well, Josh. I think you did a lot with being at the end as well. And again, you got Lawrence in the 12th round. So it just goes to show single QB leagues, you can wait and you can absolutely
last pick of the 13th,
value.
Actually.
Sorry, 13th, yeah.
That's wild.
That is insane.
For the QB4 last year to fall that far, that was very surprising to me.
Yeah, no, that's quite impressive. I'm trying to see. I think the thing that I like most about my team is I like the stack that I got with Lamb and Prescott, and I loved getting Loveland in the 4th. I was really happy with that.
I love that you invested heavily in offenses that I expect to be very productive this year.
Yes, I think I made a joke in the chat that they were saying I went Cowboys, Chargers, and Bears, and I made a joke that I went with like the 3 C's, much like you need a diamond to make a fantasy championship ring, cut, color, clarity. It's Cowboys, Chargers, and Chicago players. So somehow made it 3 C's as well, and I was pretty consistent in that. Again, if I'm looking for upside and I'm trying to get what I see a lot on my teams is I want the most potential points in terms of all of my positions. So I feel like I got that. Obviously, with Lamb at the top, Hampton, I'm still pretty high on it. A lot of people are down on him this season, but I'm excited to see what he will do with the Chargers this season. It's going to be revamped with this offensive scheme. Looking forward to that, which is, again, why I don't mind leaning into him and McConkey. I wasn't going to go and then also go Herbert. Like, that wasn't a stack because that's a bit too much for me. But like I said, I was originally targeting Caleb Williams to pair with Loveland. Not mad about getting Prescott with him either. Evans, I feel like when healthy, has the potential to have big weeks, so I'm excited to have the potential to flex him. Price, again, looking forward to seeing how he develops this season, but a little bit nervous that he's my running back too. But then Tracy there later, again, I feel like the Giants are building their team for disaster mode. So there's going to be weeks where Tracy eats, and I'm pretty confident about that.
I think Tracy's a perfect late round running back.
Yeah.
I truly do. He came in after Scadaboo got hurt, and he was an RB1 to close out the season, with his ability as a pass catcher. He's a former receiver in college, with 1,000-yard rusher his rookie season. Like he can do the things that he needs to do. Scadaboo is just more exciting. He can score touchdowns in bunches the way that Tracy hasn't shown that he can do. But again, he's a very capable receiver. And I think he's probably one of the better insurance policies for a team that, quite frankly, is going to need a lot of insurance policies.
Definitely. All right, we've got a couple of questions in the chat I want to make sure we get to before we close out, so we can get away from the mock draft, and I'll pull these questions up. This one from Studley Stew. What is the percentage chance consensus is wrong and Neighbors is a top 5 wide receiver this year again? Tate, I want to throw this question to you.
I'm going to say 33%. Very specific. Very specific.
Is that because there's 333 in
I think there's
Stew's name? So you've got 3s on the mind?
Maybe. I was just kind of thinking there's 3 different scenarios. Okay. One, he's a stud, and he's exactly everything that we've ever thought he would be as the focal point of the the Giants offense. And Jackson Dart takes huge steps. Everything works out. Everybody's holding hands, singing Kumbaya on their way to a fantasy championship with Malik Neighbors at his current price. Then there is the possibility that Malik Neighbors is not healthy to start the year and misses some time or something like that. I actually think that that's far less likely. And speaking of likely, there's also the chance that maybe Malik Neighbors is not 100% healthy, but is still on the football field. And Jackson Dart doesn't take that year 2 step. Isaiah likely sees a little bit of that underneath volume. And Malik Neighbors just doesn't have the same pop less than 1 year removed from a major knee injury. So 2 of those scenarios are ones that he doesn't finish as a top 5 fantasy wide receiver. One of them is. So 33%.
I like this comment going off of your take from Future First Pod. I'd say it's a Matt Nagy size chance.
That's your problem right there. That is the hindrance on why Malik Neighbors will not be a top 5 wide receiver this year. Matt Nagy fucking sucks.
I just think there's so many factors to go into his success as well. I mean, we already saw Dart in the medical tent, and it's the preseason, and he's saying, why am I already in the tent? Bro, if you don't get up after you get hit, you're going to get pulled to the side. So learn to pop up. Brady did it. Eli did it. One of them had a better, poker face about it than the other. But I definitely feel like he has a lot of growing up to do. Dart does, that is, in order to keep Neighbors successful. So there's a lot of things that go into bringing Neighbors back to what we hoped he would be and what he started off last year to be.
Speaking of Tyrone Tracy, it would have been nice to see him pick up that block. but I digress.
Oh no.
There was a lot of talk about where the assignment was. Like, was it
Right.
miscommunication from Dart? Was it this? Was it that? Like, because you see Tracy kind of like immediately jetting out to the flat, like he's running a route. And then like he sees the block and it's like, oh shit, I gotta like,
He's gonna,
Yeah,
my quarterback's gonna die.
yeah, let me throw a shoulder at least. Like, yeah, I guess they talked after the game or what have you, and Tracy basically owned up to it, saying that I was supposed to pick up the block first before going out into the flat, which he jumped the gun on. Which again, I don't know if that's just maybe him covering for his quarterback, but it's preseason, so
yeah, things get.
Well, you can go. It's preseason, but our starting franchise quarterback just got obliterated.
Yeah, right.
Because you missed a pass blocking assignment. So, look, I love Tyrone Tracy. I'm not. I will. He was one of my breakout guys a couple of years ago. Like, love him. I just believe a little bit more in Scadaboo.
I get that. I do.
This
one from Quincy. I'm a little bit worried about Alex Pierce because of Keenan Allen would drop Pierce for Wan'Dale full PPR. Josh, I'll throw this one to you because we did talk about Keenan Allen to start off the episode, knowing that he just signed with the Colts, and we weren't necessarily worried. How can we give Quincy a little bit more confidence here?
I love Wan'Dale Robinson. He's had back-to-back 140 target seasons, and oh, by the way, it's been in this exact offense. So I don't see a world where he doesn't approach 140 targets this year. Like, Cam Ward is going to throw the football a ton. Targets, that's how you win in fantasy. Like, I want all the targets for as good, quote unquote, as Alec Pierce was last year. Guess what? Wan'Dale and his 140 targets outpaced him in fantasy football. So go get you some Wan'Dale Robinson, buddy.
I'm putting my hands together and I'm raising them up like to the hallelujah emoji because you're preaching, son. You're preaching. Love Wan'Dale.
And I say that as like I'm a fan of Carnell Tate this season. I think Tate is going to be great, but Wan'Dale knows this offense. He's going to be the safety blanket. So
yeah,
I love hearing the words Tate and great in the same sentence.
I know you do. God. I think I'm really excited about the Titans this season as well, just because I'm excited to see what the combo coaching staff does here. There's a lot of chips on their shoulders. There's a lot that they were both able to do offensively, defensively for their past teams. And the Titans are a team that they need some direction. They have so much youth. They have so much talent. I think that could be magnified with the right coaching, and I'm really excited to see what can be done with this core group, and what Cam Ward's going to do. I feel like he had potential last year. I don't feel like he had the best options available for him to start. Plus, he lost his head coach in the part of the middle of the season as well.
That was a gain for him, I promise you.
I know that it was, but it's not a great thing when you're trying to get something.
Oh no, I agree with that.
Something gets pulled.
Yeah.
So,
oh no, I agree. Brian Callahan's just terrible.
Well, sure, but like that just does a lot for a rookie quarterback to then be like, all right, you're my guy, and then bye. Like that's just it's just sad. So I'm excited to see the confidence boost that he's going to get from these two coaches that are absolutely going to give him what he needs to succeed.
I'll just jump in real quick. All jokes aside about preaching and stuff like that. Cam Ward flashed enough in a very bad situation last year. And as far as anticipation goes, throwing with anticipation, and Wan'Dale Robinson, very familiar with Brian Daboll's scheme dating back to their time together just last year in New York. And he's an instant separator near the line of scrimmage that can be Cam Ward. Also, there are times when he doesn't hold the ball too long and he's decisive early in the rep, plays on time. That could be a match made in heaven if they are going to be playing from behind as much as I anticipate they may. So yeah, no, I like Wan'Dale Robinson. If he's on your waiver wire and Alec Pierce is, if you don't have an IR spot, I'd cut him right now. Go get Wan'Dale.
I get that. All right, let's let this be our last question then as we kind of wrap up this week's episode. This one from Tyler. Thoughts on Bucky and Scadaboo now that Harris is there? We kind of talked about this a little bit earlier.
Harris is no threat to Scadaboo.
Yeah.
Harris isn't even a threat to Tyrone Tracy. So.
Hey, he's a nice guy. How dare you?
I'm glad he's got a job.
I was
But-
gonna say he's a threat to Devin Singletary. That's what
Yes.
Najee Harris is. So
Yes, I feel like that's the thing. Again, I just feel like
Agreed.
his addition is building up for the potential of Scadaboo to get hurt. And again, his style of play is very similar to Dart's in terms of let's sacrifice the body and pretend this is the championship game, even though it's week 2. And I think with that mentality and the head coaching staff being the way that it is, they just need to have insurance policies. He's an insurance policy, but he's not necessarily one that you should look at as a threat to your top starters. What you should worry about your starters are injuries and them getting in their own way.
I think you forgot to say week 2 of the preseason, because that's what Scadaboo does. Whenever he's on a football field, he's playing like his hair's on fire, even in the preseason.
He's playing like in the replacements, Danny Bateman, where, you know, coach looks at him, go get me the ball, Danny, go get me the ball. And he just says, I'll go get you the ball. And then he just screams and runs over people at his own detriment. He comes back off the field with blood on his face and the ball in his hand. And they're like, we were on defense. I don't know why you were out there, but thanks. Like, that's kind of the attitude that he has when he's on the field.
it's fair.
I've got nothing to add. I love Danny Bateman.
I just feel like it's a fair comp for his style of play.
All right, we kind of missed the first part of that, which was the thoughts on Bucky.
Yes.
Tate, you're the Bucks
Yes,
guy.
Tate, you're the Bucks guy. We gotta let
Feel
you go.
free.
All right, I'll be quick. The fact that Bucky Irving is practicing right now after the drop in ADP, the panic that you will that took place with Bucky Irving when Todd Bowles mentioned earlier that, hey, he'll be back on the field sometime this summer or fall. Like, things have calmed down. He's back on the back on the practice field. If that's the case and the offensive line is healthy, Bucky is the best back in that backfield. Let's not forget that. And I do believe in this offensive line, and I still believe in Baker playing with the chip on his shoulder, and Zach Robinson, who has spoken very highly of Bucky Irving. So I'm intrigued by his drop in price, maybe in the 4th, 5th round as your running back 3. I love it as a running back 3 because there is some real upside there. But I just wouldn't get too crazy and reach on him just because Kenneth Gainwell is going to cap his pass catching ceiling, because that's something Gainwell does very well and was paid to do so to come into town.
Mm-hmm.
And Bucky's not exactly a short yardage hammer inside the 5-yard line. I could still see the Bucks going to the air quite a bit when they get down inside the red area. So I like Bucky. Glad that he's healthy. That's very encouraging. Worth a pick in the middle rounds, but I don't see a top 8 running back season like I could have seen entering last year.
Yeah, I think we saw with Bucky the increased amount of touches just completely sapped his efficiency. And I know part of that was probably the deficiencies of the Bucs offensive line last year with a lot of the injuries and such. But I mean, he's still a very talented pass catcher. He's somebody that will be used in that role. But again, you don't go out and you get Gainwell, who's also very good as a pass catcher. It's what he excelled at in college as well. Again, a former wide receiver in college. So, yeah, I think he's definitely more of a RB2-ish, kind of like I'd prefer him as my RB3, and then, you know, you get that RB2 upside, but I definitely don't see the RB1 ceiling from him as long as Gainwell's there.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, that'll pretty much about do it for us as we wrap up this week's episode of Sideline Banter. Any last thoughts, gentlemen, before I close this out?
I need to stack my quarterbacks to get a good grade from Samantha Holt. Stack my top wide receiver with a quarterback. Otherwise, you could do better, Derrick.
Yeah, essentially. I don't know. I just felt like the Marvin Harrison was really just like the zit on the face of your draft.
Next week, I'm going to show up with Marvin Harrison, a small little picture just taped to my forehead. Like, kind of think Deadpool when he had Wolverine's face. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I could see that. That'd be a good look. Josh, any of your last thoughts for this mock draft?
No, just appreciate you guys having me on. It's always fun when I have a Tuesday night off and I can crash the party. So
Hell yeah. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Sideline Banter. Make sure you like and subscribe to Women of Fantasy Football so you don't miss a single episode of ours, but also all the other amazing content that they have to offer. Guys, we will see you next week. Good luck in all your drafts as we wrap up this draft season and get ready for the start of the season. Bye, guys.